offer as sacrifice their material possessions or their austerity or their spiritual exercises, while others of subdued minds and severe vows offer their learning and wisdom. Dravya yagna, first word used is dravya yagna. It means using one's wealth for the benefit of society. The scriptures give two definitions of the word dravya in dravya yagna. The first is wealth that can be counted as money, and the second is a broad meaning of matter. So you've got money and matter. Therefore, such a person is using whatever she has for the benefit of society. The understanding is the same. The person knows that she has taken a lot from society and now she has to give it back. She has gained a lot because of God's blessings, and therefore she decides to become an instrument from which many people can also be showered with God's blessings. Such a person uses her wealth and everything she has for God. This is dravya yagna, and a lot of this is happening in society. Therefore, I'm not going to go into it in too much detail. These people perform a yagna with their power and their devotion. We have such strong morals that the person who does not perform a yagna feels guilty, thinking that she's taking a lot from society but not giving anything back. If a person does not feel guilty about this, then it's not worth talking about these thick, thin people. It is the duty of humans to perform dravya yagna. We saw in verse 12 of the 3rd chapter of the Gita, it says, Itan bogan hi vo deva dashante yagna abhivata der datan aprapati abhyo yo bhungte stena evasa. Meaning, fostered by yagna, the gods will give you the enjoyments you desire. He who enjoys these gifts without giving them in return is verily a thief. Repeat again. Fostered by yagna, the gods will give you the enjoyments you desire. He who enjoys these gifts without giving them in return is verily a thief. The second type of yagna referred to here is a tapo yagna, which is a second word of this verse. Tapo yagna. What is tap? Who knows what tap is? Tap, anyone? Tap means austerities. This means tolerating bad things happening to you and still practicing your dharma, your duty. Tolerating bad things happening to you and still practicing your dharma. This is purifying yourself through rituals and fasts. The root of tap is to tolerate unfavorable circumstances. There is difficulty in the path of dharma. One begins it, but then faces difficult circumstances and therefore stops it. His mind starts running and he leaves dharma. Through austerities, one has to tolerate unfavorable circumstances and advance in the path of dharma. Gandhiji told a resident of his ashram that he should perform mara, which is name chanting using prayer beads, of God every day. He gave him the name of Ram to chant. The person began to perform this. After a week, Gandhiji saw the person and asked him how his mara was going. The person told him, Bapu, I was performing the mara, but bad thoughts kept coming into my head. After this kept happening for 5 days, then I stopped the mara. Gandhiji said, you are remarkable. The mara is a good thing, and therefore if you get bad thoughts while performing the mara, then you should leave the bad thoughts and not the good thing, which is the mara. It's a nature of people that they stop only the good things. To continue doing mara while one is having the bad thoughts is very difficult, and austerities are needed for this. By austerities, I do not mean growing a long beard, wearing orange clothes and going to the jungle to chant Ram, Ram, Ram. Austerity means to live life and to tolerate difficulties. There is a very nice definition of tap in the Mahanarayan Upanishad. Ruttam tapaha, satyam tapaha, shrutyam tapaha, shantan tapaha, dhamma tapaha, shama tapaha, danan tapo, yagnan tapo, purvavasva tapo, etad upasva tara tapo. Meaning, straightforwardness is austerity. Truth is austerity. Search for wisdom is austerity. Peace is austerity. Control of the senses is austerity. Control of the mind is austerity. Charity and donations is austerity. Yagna is austerity. Trying to attain Brahman, God, is austerity. I repeat again. Straightforwardness is austerity. Truth is austerity. Search for wisdom is austerity. Peace is austerity. Control of the senses is austerity. Control of the mind is austerity. Charity is austerity. Yajna is austerity. Trying to attain Brahman, God, is austerity. The Prashna Upanishad says, Tapo Brahmacharya, meaning celibacy is austerity. By that I don't mean a person can still be married and be a celibate. We'll go in detail in that in chapter 5. Celibacy is a state of mind. It means when you have controlled your intellect. The Manarayan Upanishad says further that Tapo Vairagya, meaning non-attachment, is austerity. Therefore, austerity is a very broad thing. Set a purpose, a reason, or a mission, and decide to suffer for that thing. The consequences of performing austerities are described in the scriptures. The Maitri Upanishad says, Tapasya praptya sattva, meaning austerities give a person confidence. This is the confidence that she will do what she decided. A person who says that she will get nothing done can never perform an austerity. Such a person decides many things but gets nothing done. The more austerities you perform, then the more your confidence grows. The Maitri Upanishad also says, Tapasya pata papma, meaning austerities destroy sins. The Mandukya Upanishad says, Labhya tapasya esha atma, meaning the soul is attained through austerities. The soul cannot be attained without austerities. In the Patanjali, who's heard of Patanjali? The inventor of the yoga system. The Patanjali Yoga Darshan, the way to attain yoga is shown as Yama, Niyam, Asan, Prananama, Pratya, Dhyan, Dharana, Samadhi, meaning that one attains the soul after performing austerities. There are many definitions of yoga because the Gita is a yoga scripture. Each and every chapter is a yoga, like chapter 4 is Gnan Yoga, the yoga of wisdom. After each and every chapter of the Gita finishes, it is said, Om Tatsaditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishad Su Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastra. The Gita Mahatmya, at the end of each chapter, shows how the yoga of that chapter will join us with the Supreme Soul. In the second chapter of the Gita, the following definition of yoga is given. Yoga karma sukoshalayam, meaning yoga is excellent in action. Do whatever you do, do it excellently. Later on in the second chapter, the following definition of yoga is given. Samatvam yoga uchvate. This is the yagna of yoga. Then Svadhyaya yagna is mentioned in this verse, meaning spiritual exercises. 3 things are needed for this. The first is to recognize one's self. If one does not recognize his self, then he cannot perform spiritual exercises. You do not have to recognize someone else. If someone recognizes themselves, starts telling everyone, and begins giving this knowledge to society, then it's good for him. But he must recognize himself first. How can one recognize his self? Firstly, one must not concern himself what others say about him, and also the image of what other people have of him. If one wishes to encounter himself, then he should put what other people say about him or her to one side. On the majority of the occasions, we recognize ourselves by what other people think about us. If people think that we are good, then we also think that we are good. And if other people think that you are bad, does that make you bad? No. People saying that you are good does not make you good, and people saying that you are bad does not make you bad. You are yourself. People make a file of things said about them in the newspapers and tell people that this is them. This is not them. This is the costume on top. You should put what other people say about you to one side, and then you will be able to recognize yourself with a capital S. Secondly, in the same way that we have to put what other people think about us to one side, you should put your own image of yourself to one side. There are 2 concepts, what I am and what I think I am. There is a big difference between the 2. What you think you are can become your body and become your goal, but in the present, you should recognize who you are. Therefore, you put what you think you are to one side. When we have a positive image of who we think we are, then if we do something wrong, then we turn a blind eye towards it and say that we are good people in reality. We say this, we did this one thing, but apart from that, we're really nice. Take out this bandage of thinking, otherwise that you're very nice, and look at the self residing inside. you realize that the action was wrong. Thirdly, you must learn to be alone. When you are with others, then you will not be able to recognize yourself. For at least 20 minutes a day, you should sit by yourself. Only then can you encounter yourself. A person that cannot sit by herself can never perform spiritual exercises. The basic requirement of spiritual exercises is to sit alone, because only then will one recognize one's self. A person can become by himself even in a group. Sometimes people sit alone and yet in their minds they're in a group. This is a fine difference. A person can become alone even though she is surrounded by people. In such a situation, a person can perform spiritual exercises. A very famous thinker said that every person commits a great conspiracy on not letting their self be alone, because then you're never exposed to yourself and never know who you are. I'll show you a very simple technique of being alone. Stand in front of a mirror. You will be alone. Put yourself in front of a mirror, and I don't mean for putting makeup on your face, with just the body. Can you face yourself? There's a very nice word for mirror in Gujarati. Who knows the word for mirror in Gujarati? Ariso and I know. I know. I know. I know. Remember that I know. It's as if the mirror is saying, I know who you are. Can you face yourself? The more times you stand alone in front of a mirror, the more times you will realize that your soul is clean. The more you can stand in front of the mirror, the more you realize that your internal self, yourself, is clean. You'll be face to face with your soul. Because when you see yourself in front of a mirror, then you start remembering everything about yourself. You know everything about yourself, but you have kept it hidden. This is necessary for performing spiritual exercises. Once you know yourself, then you can begin the treatment. The yagna of the self and the yagna of wisdom should be done in their correct meanings. Only then can they change a person and change the person's life. Shri Krishna has talked about karma yoga in this verse and the last verse and the one before that, but in the next 3 verses, he'll begin talking about how one can perform hatha yoga. Next verse.